And now we'll call the meeting to order, the formal City Council meeting of the Phoenix City Council for April 6, 2016. Would our city clerk please call the roll?
Councilman DeCiccio. Councilman Gates. Councilman Nowakowski. Councilwoman Pastor. Councilman Valenzuela. Councilman Waring. Councilwoman Williams. Vice Mayor Gallego.
Here.
Mayor Stanton.
Here, we do have a quorum present. We have an interpreter here to provide those services to any person who may need it. Ms. Holm, would you introduce yourself for the audience?
Buenas tardes, me llamo Judy, soy intérprete de español. Si alguien necesita el equipo, por favor venga conmigo o con el personal de la ciudad. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Ms. Holm. Next on our agenda are citizen comments. Citizens have up to 3 minutes to address this council on anything they would like to discuss. City Council unfortunately cannot respond because these are not formally agendized items. The first speaker on citizen comment is Bramley Paulin. Mr. Paulin, please come forward. Up to 3 minutes of comments, followed by Diane Barker, followed by Leonard Clark. Good to see you.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Bramley Paulin. I'm sure you are aware, a few weeks ago, the governor signed into law House Bill 2440, which was the approval process for municipal improvement districts. In addition, the governor signed into law Senate Bill 1487, which held that municipalities who violate state law could have their state-shared revenue withheld. Pursuant to City Charter, Chapter 4, Section 22, I'm here today to submit a petition requesting that the City Council comply with state laws and ordinances by placing on its next meeting agenda, but not later than 15 days from today, for action, that the City Council reverse its decision from January 20th, 2016, of the formal meeting regarding Resolution 21387, having to do with the formation of the Roosevelt Business Improvement District, and to formally abandon Resolution 21389, approval of the assessment diagram. Mayor, may I submit the petition?
You may,
for the
and I
record?
think our city clerk will come formally accept that on behalf of the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is going to be Diane Barker.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Diane Barker. I'm in District 7. As Mahatma Gandhi once said, be the change yourself as you would like to see in the world. And intellectually aware and mature persons, I think that its individual characteristics could be applied to growing organizations such as our city, is awareness, self-awareness, self-regulation, self-motivation, empathy, and social skills. So, I'd like to, take a moment to call your attention to that. We're in the budget time. We need to really define in these times, we don't know what the future really will bring, but we need to tighten our belt and have the reserves for good and poorer times. And so, I want you to look, all of us, to see what really are needs and what are wants. And then I'd like to share the good news of Meet Me Downtown. I'd like to pass in, you're all invited Mondays. What do you do on Mondays? 5:15, we meet at the corner. We get out. We come down to our city. We have fun. We have bands. We walk. We give raffle tickets for, Diamondbacks or even the Suns or the Symphony. It's a great thing. It doesn't matter the weather or if it's a holiday, Meet Me Downtown. And I was at the Board of Supervisors today. It came up about the election. And they're supposed to be looking at 10 measures from the Department of Justice in answering about the March 22nd election. They'll have 2 weeks to do this. It is important. Nobody should be able to, that certainly a taxpayer that's in the community should be disfranchised from having their vote count. Unfortunately, our county reporter and the elections director left before they heard all the testimony from the people that took the time to go over there today. So we are disappointed in that, and we would like to have the people here stay on top about keep America strong and keep the vote free.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. Our final speaker on citizen comment, at least of the cards that I have currently, Mr. Leonard Clark.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Leonard Clark. I'm a resident of the city of Phoenix. And first of all, even though the mayor and I may have disagreements sometimes, I do thank the mayor for his courage in stepping forth on the disastrous March 22nd election that was held, presidential preference election, where Republicans, Democrats, many people were disenfranchised. I salute the mayor for calling for the Department of Justice. Whether they really get anything done or not, I still admire that, and so it makes it hard on me when I want to be critical because, darn it, he's doing the right thing here. So, that being said, I also want to express my frustration and great anger at the fact that many citizens in the city of Phoenix did our best to ban horrible puppy mills, to stop killing as many kittens and puppies that are being brought into this world. But our illustrious chief executive, who's 5 minutes down the street from here, likes to wield the big club, the bully club, and tell the cities, such as Phoenix, that we cannot stop more and more kittens and puppies from being killed. So I just want to express my anger that many citizens in the city of Phoenix went out of our way to express our support for a law banning puppy mills, but our governor says, no, it's fine to kill more puppies and kittens. That's not being conservative or liberal, that's just being cold-hearted. As far as the medical marijuana, an article appeared in the Arizona Republic yesterday. Now, I understand that some of our religious folks do have sway. Yes, you have your part, but we also have give what isn't to Rome what is Rome. And medical marijuana, whether recreational use or for like my fellow veterans who use it medicinally, people should not be being placed in jail. And hopefully, if it gets on the ballot to legalize marijuana in the state of Arizona, I'm asking you, the city of Phoenix, not to start cracking down on people because of that. If you want to be equal and moral, then you crack down on the alcohol industry too. You make it hard for them to sell. You make it just as hard on them as you are going to make it on medical marijuana. Because you know what? We have our social media now. And even though, like, sometimes I can't get mine to work here, thousands of people are watching, not just on this cable, they're watching on Twitter, YouTube, they're watching all over the internet. And so please, do not make it tougher on people who use medical marijuana, and I hope recreational marijuana in the future. Although I do not use it, it is hypocritical to go after them when you don't go after the alcohol industry, and we know who has the money here in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. That's all the cards I have for citizen comments. So next we'll move on to the formal business of the council. Would the city clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G6143 through 6145, S42411 through 42438, and resolutions number 21416 through 21424.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to the minutes of previous meetings. Councilman Gallego, did you have a chance to review the formal meeting minutes from January 20th, 2016?
I did motion to approve the formal meeting minutes from January 20th, 2016.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Councilman Gates is here. Did you have a chance to review the special meeting minutes February 2nd, 2016?
I did, and I move their approval.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Do we have a motion on mayor's, boards, and commission nominations as corrected?
Motion to approve mayor's, boards, and commission nominations as corrected.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Do we have a motion on city council, boards, and commission nominations?
Motion to approve city council, boards, and commission nominations.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. My understanding is that we do have citizens here to be sworn in for service on key boards and commissions, so I'll come down to my right, your left, on the side of the stage here, and then we'll swear you in, and then if you would come behind the dais afterwards, individual council members like to say thank you in advance for your service to the citizens of Phoenix. Thanks in advance for your service. So I'll, in just a moment, ask you to raise your right hand, and you'll say aye, and obviously state your name. We'll go through the swearing in, and then at the end, you'll have to fill in the spot for your board or commission. You're all veterans. You know how to do this. Please raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. According to the best of my ability. So help me God. You're official. Thanks in advance for your service. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much. Come back behind there and shake your hands. Say thank you. All right, thanks again to those outstanding citizens for their service. It is very, very important work, service on boards and commissions. Next, we'll move on to liquor license applications. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on liquor license applications?
Motion to approve items 1 through 14.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have some cards on these items. Not wishing to speak. All appear to be in favor of the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items pass unanimously. Let's see, there is one liquor license that staff is recommending for disapproval. It's in District 5, Exotica Gentleman Club. Councilman Valenzuela, do you wish to proceed with the staff report before hearing the cards?
No, staff did a really good job of submitting the information on why the disapproval would be appropriate, and frankly, I got to say, I sit here in agreement, but out of a professional courtesy, I will ask for a continuance. My motion is to continue to April 20th, 2016, allowing the applicant to meet with community leaders, and we'll see it back.
Okay, so the request is to continue the item, knowing that as of this time, Phoenix Police Department and our staff are recommending disapproval, but it'll give the applicant an opportunity at least to find out more why and to see if they can't address those issues. So a motion for continuance. Did we get a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That continuance passes unanimously. Next, we'll move on to ordinance resolutions, new business. Vice Mayor, are you prepared with a omnibus motion on those items?
Motion to approve items 16 through 61, except the following. Items 16B, 16C, 17, 19, 21, 22, 32, 33, 34, and 61. Item 46 will be continued to April 20th, 2016.
Okay, that is our omnibus motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions by members of this council? Any additional items to pull out? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gates.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item is item 16B, part of our payment ordinance. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on 16B?
Can we move together items 16B and 16C, which are two items related to the airport? Move approval of 16B and C.
All right, so 16B and 16C is the motion. Do we have a second on those items?
Second.
Do you have any comments or questions by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor. Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on a 5-2 vote. Next item, Vice Mayor.
The next item is item 17, which is an odor control services contract. I move approval.
We have a motion in favor of odor control. We have a second. Are there any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so that item passes 6-2. Next item, I believe, is item number 19. Vice Mayor?
Move approval of item 19.
You have a second on 19? A second on 19?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on 19. Are there any comments by members of this council or questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. I think that was 7-1. Okay. Next item is item 21. Let's see, Councilman Gates serves on the board of directors of one of the organizations that's recommended for a gaming grant, so we're going to pull out that item for an individual vote. So, Vice Mayor, would you do that, have an individual vote on the Phoenix Symphony item?
Move approval of providing a grant through the Gila River Indian Community Service as gaming grants for the Phoenix Symphony.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, noting that Councilman Gates is going to take a potential conflict of interest and not participate in the vote. Any additional comments or questions by members of this council as it relates to Phoenix Symphony grant only? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that passes 7-0. Now we can get a motion on the remaining Gila River Indian Community Gaming Grant.
And this is some exciting partnerships and really acting on things that we have already heard from our budget meetings, including that residents are interested in body cameras, but would love to see us look for other opportunities to fund that program. So that's one of the items in this motion. I move approval of item 21, Gila River Indian Community Gaming Grants, with the exception of the Phoenix Symphony item.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item is item 22. Item 22 is a proposed historic preservation grant for the preservation of the WPA building at Arizona State Fairgrounds. It's in District 4, so I'll turn it now to Councilwoman Laura Pastor.
So this is an exciting landmark within the District 4 area, and it's the architecture and the historic significance that really brings value to our city. And so I move to amend ordinance S 42-417 as follows. After $120,000 and an additional $80,000 from the Phoenix Industrial Development Authority will be $80,000 will be given from the Phoenix Industrial Authority. And after the end of Section 1, I'm going to insert the following. Section 2, the city manager or his designee is authorized to accept $80,000 from the Phoenix Industrial Development Authority to assist the state of Arizona with rehabilitation of the historic WPA building at the Arizona State Fairgrounds. Reason for The amendment is to clarify that the $80,000 of the funding for the WPA rehabilitation comes from the Phoenix IDA. It authorizes the city controller to disperse funds from both the HP Go, or it's not, it's the
General obligation.
Yeah, and the Phoenix IDA to the state of Arizona for WPA rehabilitation purposes.
I'll second that, Mayor.
We have a motion, we have a second. With that, I'll turn actually to Michelle Dodds. I probably should have done it earlier. Maybe you can, the motion obviously is for, if approved by this council, $200,000 to go to the preservation of that threatened building, which as very recently, and is still ongoing, is under threat of demolition. What is the procedural posture of this matter right now?
Mayor, members of the council, the Arizona Exhibition and State Fair Board gave the preservation community until April 14th to raise funds, or they would proceed with demolition of the building. And so we are here today trying to obtain funds so that we could do our part to help save this important historic resource for the whole state of Arizona.
Assuming this passes the city council, what are the next steps as it relates to the preservation of that building?
Mayor, I would imagine that the State Fair Board would meet again and decide what to do. We don't know if they're willing to accept a conservation easement, and we don't know, we know the community has raised some matching funds, but we don't know if they are going to appropriate funds to go toward the building yet. So that's still, those two issues are still open.
Assuming this passes the council, the $200,000 to preserve the building we would require obviously a conservation easement in order to provide the resources to the state fairgrounds.
Absolutely, Mayor and Council. We don't give money without protecting that public investment. So
Okay.
at the time we would have a conservation easement written, they would sign it, and we would record that with the county.
So assuming this passes in the form of basically an offer to the State Fairground Board to accept these significant amount of resources and provide a conservation easement for this building so the public can have confidence this building will not be demolished.
Mayor, that's absolutely right. And $200,000 would pay for approximately half of the cost to stabilize the building.
All right, thank you very much. Now there are cards here from leaders in the historic preservation community which provide testimony before this council. Mr. Jim McPherson from the Arizona Preservation Foundation, who has been, bar none, the leader in the effort to save the WPA building. Mr. McPherson, up to 2 minutes of testimony. Good to see you.
2 minutes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Stanton and members of council for hearing me out. My name is Jim McPherson, Board President of the Arizona Preservation Foundation, our statewide historic preservation advocacy group. In August of 2014, State Senator John Kavanaugh and State Representative Leila Alston, both members of the legislature's Joint Committee on Capital Review, asked the foundation to pull together a stakeholders group to come with a solution to preserve, renovate, and reuse the 1938 WPA administration building at our Arizona State Fairgrounds. Since August of 2014, our committed group of neighborhood leaders, local businesses, developers, state legislators, municipal officials, college professors and students, and preservation advocates have accomplished the following. We raised approximately $220,000 in cash and in-kind contributions for various aspects of the building's renovation and related strategic planning projects for the fairgrounds. A professional team of architects and contractors that specialize in historic buildings conducted a structural building report and follow-up evaluation of the roof, which is the major repair issue with the building. The findings of the team are positive, which will help to keep repair costs to a minimum. We secured a tenant for the building to work with State Fair officials on interior tenant improvements for the space. Not only would the renovated building house the State Historic Preservation Office, but also it would be an exhibit space for fairgoers and display space where state and city agencies that have tourism and retail functions could share their information to the public. We have met with family members of former Phoenix Mayor John Driggs to discuss the possibility of creating the John D. Driggs Center for Preservation Studies as an education and community space to honor and recognize the contributions of our former mayor to historic preservation in our city. The Driggs family is very interested in this idea. We and City Economic and Development Department staff have had conversations with several development firms that are interested in sitting down with state fair officials and others to discuss the preservation of the 1938 Administration Building, other historic buildings at the fairgrounds, and adjacent vacant parcels. This could be a significant opportunity for a public-private partnership to revitalize, oh my gosh, this important area of our
Finish up, go
city.
ahead. It's important what you're saying. Finish up,
Oh,
please.
thank you. To revitalize this important area of our city and help facilitate the protection and ongoing maintenance of important fairground assets. We are holding conversations with several transportation, arts and culture, and community development stakeholder groups about improved connectivity between the fairgrounds, Midtown, downtown, and Grand Avenue as a benefit to each area. And even one of our members is writing a book on the fairgrounds history. We're extremely hopeful the last chapter has a happy ending with the preservation of the 1938 WP Administration Building. Preservation advocates are ecumenical. We care about historic buildings no matter where they are located. The Santa Rita Center in South Phoenix, Lincoln Ragsdale's residence on West Thomas Road, the Chinese American Sun Mercantile Building in our warehouse district, the S on Sunny Slope Mountain, the Hedgepath Hills Petroglyph Site, the David and Gladys Wright House in Arcadia. We and our local preservation colleagues care about them all, and we will advocate for them when called upon by you and others in our community. While the 1938 WPA Administration Building is on state property, it is a historic property for all of us. It's the place where Phoenix residents sought jobs during the Great Depression. It later housed Air Research, a company whose employees were important contributors to our nation's defense during World War II and thereafter. And at peacetime, it's where thousands of Phoenix children and their parents would visit to see the best of Arizona products and services. One more thing about partnership. Over on West Washington stands our city's first public library. The Carnegie Library is owned by the City of Phoenix and leased to the state of Arizona. The building is now undergoing significant roof repair, and they're doing a great job in maintaining the historic character of the building. Guess who is footing the bill? The state of Arizona. I want to thank the members of the Phoenix Historic Preservation Commission and your Downtown Aviation and Redevelopment Subcommittee for supporting additional funding for the 1938 WPA Administration Building. We hope you, as stewards of historic properties in Phoenix, our state's capital city, will support the recommendation before you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim McPherson. Gigi George, followed by John Jury, followed by Steve Dreisenson.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Gigi George, representing the Encanto Citizens Association. The stakeholders group is very appreciative of the good work you have done to this point on the subject of the WPA building. From stopping the front loader when it ripped out the original window on the north side of the building to providing a space for us to meet for the last 20 months. If the recommended action is passed today, it would provide a new paradigm for cooperation. Restoration of the WPA building will be the anchor and impetus for attention to the 6 Points area, and I hope a new point of pride for the city of Phoenix. As most of you know, I'm working on a book on a history of the fair, and I have a special report from 1915, 1916, presented to the third state legislature, and a paragraph reads, "The state fairgrounds are ideal for the purpose intended, and with consistent landscape gardening, which has been started under plans obtained from the University of Arizona, will soon be one of the most beautiful," and the word they use is parks, in the state. Remember, in 1916, they're saying the plant is in better condition than ever before and compares favorably with that of any in the West. And in 2016, I would like to be able to say the same thing. We'd like to see it return to a park-like state. All of the surrounding historic districts in our city would like to see the fairgrounds return to the category of an asset to our city and the surrounding neighborhoods. And we're asking for the city to provide the funds recommended, which could be the catalyst for beginning this endeavor. But I would like to remind everyone, and I know Michelle is very aware of this, we have a short 8 days to get the State Fair Board to accept this easement, and it's going to be very critical. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. George.
Sure, I have a question.
Please, of course, Councilman.
Gigi, can I ask you a question? So you said that we have by Friday, we have to convince the board, or what was that?
They said they want the hard cash by the 14th. So it's like 8 days from today, 6 and 8 or 14.
Now, if we vote, Mayor, may I speak?
Yes.
If we vote yes on this to approve the funding, would that be satisfactory to the state to stop?
Yes, Councilman Nowakowski, Council, Mayor and Council, there's no emergency clause needed here. The money would be available upon your approval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Just
very
wanted to
much.
clarify that.
I would just add, though, that the issue of the conservation easement, as the mayor brought up, is an important issue to the money. So the money is one thing, but in order for us to give the money,
Right.
they must accept a conservation easement in exchange for it, and it's not clear yet, as Ms. George said, whether they will do that.
Actually, I was at the meeting on the 14th, the last really public meeting that the State Fair Board had, and it sounds like it's anathema to them, but let's hope they see the sense in accepting this money. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sounds like we need to get you appointed to the State Fair Board, Gigi Young. All right, John Drury is next.
Thank you, Council and Mayor. John Drury, District 2. I've been involved with the Stakeholders Committee since August of 2014. I'm a former Disney Imagineer, and I see an incredible, by saving that building, a big step toward the renaissance of the fair, which could be eventually considered the theme park for Arizona, the official theme park. So there's a huge step here that could be taken, and I support your approval of these funds. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Steve Dreisenson.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Steve Dreisenson, and I'm a 40-year resident of the FQ Story Historic District. Have you all heard that Gigi George is writing a book on the State Fairgrounds, by the way?
Really?
I just wanted to make sure
Interesting,
we
yeah.
all knew that.
Wow.
Thank you,
We
Gigi.
heard there's going to be a happy ending in the chapter.
I'm also a 3-time past president of Story and a current steering committee member, and I am representing my neighborhood today. I served on the 2006 Historic Preservation Bond Fund Subcommittee, from whose funds you're considering today. For the past 20 months, I've worked closely with a dedicated group of stakeholders, neighbors, and historic preservation advocates for the sole purpose of saving the historic 1938 Works Progress Administration, WPA building at the Arizona State Fairgrounds from destruction at the hands of short-sightedness, with the goal of returning it to productive use. The historic fairgrounds are direct neighbors to residential historic districts, including mine. As a longtime resident of FQ Story, I have watched the fairgrounds fall into an asphalt jungle, even as our neighborhood stabilized and thrived. Our neighborhoods have come back through the hard work and investment of residents who see the value of historic preservation. Our efforts have been proven right, as the stabilization and revitalization of our city's core, including downtown, is a direct result of the contributions of these neighborhoods. There are numerous examples of adaptive reuse of historic buildings in our core. It seems each day brings news of another great tenant moving into a restored building, validating the effort with demand. The WPA building will be a cornerstone of the resurgence of the fairgrounds as a destination that will harken back to earlier days and celebrate Arizona's heritage. Leadership from the city has allowed the community the time to gather support and resources to save the WPA building. The proposal before you today is exactly what we had in mind 10 years ago on the Bond Fund Subcommittee. It's time to push this effort to the next level. I urge your support on this effort to allow the community to continue its good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dreisenson. Bill Scheel.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm here in my role as chair of the city's Historic Preservation Commission, and the topic has really been covered well. I really just want to thank some of the people who really got us to this point, and I want to start with Councilwoman Pastor, whose district this is in and did such a great job of putting this package together. Councilwoman Gallego, whose subcommittee heard this and approved it. Councilman Valenzuela, who supported this also at the subcommittee level. People like Jim McPherson, Gigi George, Steve Dreisenson, and John Drury, who really came together to work on this. But even more importantly, Juanel Costello, Executive Director of the State Fair Board, who has been a willing partner in these discussions and has given us the opportunity to put this coalition together and these funds together. So I look forward to a really fruitful partnership moving forward with the State Fair Board, and thank you all for your help.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shield. Not wishing to speak, but in favor of the proposal, Patrick Neary. Thank you for submitting the card. Does anyone else here wish to speak on item number 22? Okay, so I'll now turn it to members of the council. Any comments in addition to the comments made by Councilwoman Pastor? Councilwoman Gallego.
Thank you. I want to thank Councilwoman Pastor for her leadership on this issue. The original proposal was to use $200,000 of the HP bonds for this project, and that is a pretty significant proportion of the very limited funds we have left. So I would like to thank Councilwoman Pastor for going out and looking for other funding sources, because this is a precious resource in terms of general obligation bonds. We have a lot of great buildings that still need a little bit of this pie, and so I'm glad that we're leveraging this and going forward. However, I would prefer that the state really take ownership of its own buildings. I think it would be much more appropriate, given that this is government property, that the state recognize it, but I'm glad the city can step in if the state is unwilling to do so.
Thank you very much. Other comments? Councilman DeCiccio, please.
Just a couple. I'm very supportive of this, but when staff says we're going to be requesting conservation easement, it's based on the fact that they haven't taken it to their board yet. My understanding is that we felt pretty good about getting that. Do we feel pretty comfortable with getting the conservation easement?
Councilman DeCiccio, Mayor, council members, I was not present at the State Fair Board meeting on January 14th. However, Kevin Waite in our office was there, and what he reported was that they didn't say no and they didn't say yes. They were kind of waiting to see what happened here today.
And so let's say they say no, then what happens?
Well, Councilman, it's usually a condition of approval of grant funds that we require the conservation easement in order to protect the public's investment, because if we give funds without the protection, then the building could be demolished.
No, I like that. I like the idea you're moving. I'm just wondering, what is the next step? I felt more comfortable than I'm hearing today with the fact that they would already go forward with the conservation easement, but I'm hearing that maybe there's some consternation because the board hasn't decided, so obviously you can't make that determination. But let's say they come back and say they don't want it to do that. Then what is our next step here? You're going to bring it back to the council, I assume, and...
Well, Councilman DeCiccio, yeah, we are hoping that's a condition of their approval, but yes, if they aren't willing to accept that condition, you know, I don't see how we could move forward with giving them the funds.
Well, what I would recommend that you do is if it doesn't work out that way, you just bring it back to the council, let us know immediately. I'm sure the mayor could call a special meeting on something like that, and then we can figure out and evaluate what that offer is, because the 14th is right around the corner. And if you have to have a determination before that, we want to at least have Plan B in place. Again, I feel a little more comfortable with it, but I don't know. I mean, I'm getting a more concerned response, but that's okay. That's the way you should be. You did a good job on that. You did a great job on it. The other is, once this is accomplished, my understanding was that there is going to be probably close to $1 million in expenses in full preservation. Who steps in and does that then? Do we still maintain the work on that, or how do we do this?
Yes, Councilman DeCiccio, Mayor, members of the council, as Jim McPherson pointed out to you, there are a number of development interests in the property, and so the $400,000 is what it takes to stabilize the building, but in terms of tenant improvements, that cost will vary depending on who might occupy the building. And so, you know, we did a building condition assessment and we looked at what those costs might be, and there's quite a range depending on what has to occur within the interior of the building.
And then our job is completed once we give the $200,000. I mean, we did the conservation easement pretty much accomplishes the goal of what the city set out. So then I mean, I assume the state's going to be in charge of making sure that they bring in a developer in there. And then who would be responsible if the state turns out that there's an expense there that they don't want to handle? Then what happens? Or is that something that they have to do when they accept the conservation easement? They kind of accept the responsibility at that point.
Councilman DeCiccio, Mayor, members of the council, if they accept the conservation easement and it's recorded, then our public investment would be protected. There's no time frame in which there would have to, the rest of the rehabilitation would have to occur, but hopefully with all the development interest, that would be something that would be forthcoming. But the stabilization of the building is the most critical thing to move forward. And we don't know when the State Fair Board meets again. We don't know what their decision will be if offered these funds.
Yeah, if you don't stabilize it, everything else doesn't matter anyways. I think it was a good move on the part. You know, if it requires more money or more something, I would, you know, the City of Phoenix has made this pretty much a #1 priority when it comes to historic preservation, other than couple other ones. But this one here, yeah, I had to mention that, a couple others. But in any respect, I think you ought to come back to us as quickly as possible. Let us know if it requires us to meet again quickly. And I'm sure if that would be in the form of a counter from them, and then let us evaluate that and see where we can go from there.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Stevenson.
Mayor, members of council, just for the record, I want to clarify that the motion that Councilwoman Pastor put on the table specifies that $120,000 will come from the bond funds and the other $80,000 from the IDA to comprise the full $200,000 that was recommended by the NHD subcommittee. And the strings that are attached to that are, in order to access any of that money, the state would have to agree for a dollar-for-dollar match to make that happen, as well as accept a 30-year conservation easement. That's part of our typical process with this. So that's what we'd be going back and asking them. This is us putting out that money, saying that this is important for the city of Phoenix, and now it's time for the state to step up and protect a statewide historic resource.
All right, any other comments? Councilman Nowakowski?
Bill, Mayor, I'd like to thank Jim, John, Steve, Bill, and Patrick, and Gigi for continuing to advocate for historic preservation, and especially in the downtown area. I mean, our stories are going away little by little as we start to build in the downtown area. So I just really want to thank you all for being those great advocates in preserving our history. The other thing, too, is I remember being the co-chair back in 2006 for the Bond Commission for the Historic Preservation, and this is exactly what we wanted that committee to do, to preserve historic buildings. And I want to thank you all for your continuous advocacy, and thank all those individuals that supported the bond back in 2006. It was tough, and we felt that there was enough money to preserve historic homes, and now we're still continuing to support them with that 2006 bond. So thank you once again, and I agree with you, Gigi, 100%. It should be a point of pride for the city of Phoenix, and we should look into that. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? I'll just make a brief comment, and that is, look, I personally think that the State Fairgrounds mindset as it relates to the WPA building has been incorrect for as long as they've taken the position that this building is somehow a liability and not an asset for the State Fairgrounds, that they somehow took the position that they could make more money if the building was torn down, and they could put a few more vendors there during the course of the State Fair, which happens only a couple weeks throughout the year, and hopefully working with Jim and some of the other advocates, their eyes have been open to the fact that if you preserve this building, it can become a year-round revenue-generating asset for the State Fairgrounds, whether it be offices or theoretically, that neighborhood is a very, very popular, an increasingly popular neighborhood for restaurant or even other commercial use where they could generate revenue throughout the year. We saw that in the city of Phoenix when we took a chance on ourselves and we decided to preserve the old Phoenix Union High School buildings. We actually did not have a user at the time we decided to preserve those buildings, and it was one of the best decisions that this council ever made, because by preserving those high school buildings, that became the bridge home for U of A Medical School. We wouldn't have had U of A Medical School and the great advantages that they brought to the city of Phoenix if we hadn't had those buildings available, those historic buildings that we decided to preserve. And so this is a deal the state really can't reject. We're offering to pay half of these immediate costs to help preserve a building that they own, which is an asset for them. We're willing to use $200,000 of city resources in order to to make this happen, and I promise you that when they accept this deal, when they provide that 30-year easement, and we're having this conversation 5 or 10 years from now, when there are awesome year-round uses on that facility, may even be an asset if the state of Arizona decides to change the use of that land with the state fairgrounds. I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but if they do, preserving those historic buildings on the outer rings of the fairgrounds will be a huge asset, I believe, to whoever comes in, and if it turns out to be a different use. I do want to answer Councilman DeCicio's question, because I think he did ask some very fair questions. What happens if the state refuses an offer that they can't refuse? What happens if they make a poor decision and reject this very, very generous offer from the citizens of the city of Phoenix to help them preserve an asset to themselves? And that is, if they move forward with what looks like demolition, this city, we're going to have a fight on our hands. That I believe that this Historic Preservation Commission will move forward with his HP status. I believe that that will be supported by this city council, and we'll have one heck of a Donnybrook on our hands about that building, because as you know, the state of Arizona, when they were going through their financial challenges, they actually sold this building. They actually don't own, technically, this building. The bank owns this building because they sold this and so many other state of Arizona assets in order to create financing that they needed during their recessionary period. So we'll have one heck of a Donnybrook on our hands. We hope and pray that they don't turn down an offer that they can't refuse by doing this. And the right thing to do is to accept this very generous offer, accept the opportunity for a long-term conservation easement, and 5 or 10 years from now, we can all celebrate together when they have just incredible uses for this wonderful piece of history in the city of Phoenix. Oh, by the way, they might want to use it to educate young people who come to the fair as to the history of the WPA and what went on during the Great Depression and how important that program was for the citizens of the United States of America, an incredible education opportunity as well. So that's my take, at least, as to what will happen if the state fairground board chooses not to accept this very generous offer from the city of Phoenix to solve their problem. Any other comments or questions? Councilman Pastor, did you have additional comment?
I'm very hopeful, only because they set several things in front of us, and we have met every item that they have asked. And so at this point, it's in the state's hands, and I am very hopeful at the fact that we will reach our goal collectively and jointly. And I also wanted to say that the citizens have raised money for this, and so they asked for the citizens to raise some money. So they have raised money, and they came to us and they asked, well, 200,000, they gave us a deadline date of 200,000 by this point, and so we're meeting our deadline, and so it'll be very curious to me as to why they would say no and what the next step would be, but I'm very hopeful. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other final comments or questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Yes. Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Yes. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the item passes on a 7-to-1 vote. Congratulations, Councilwoman Pastor, and we hope and pray for the best that the State Fairground Exhibition Board does the right thing and accept this very generous offer from the City of Phoenix. All right, next item on the agenda is item number 32. This is for property management services for Village Shopping Center. Vice Mayor, do you want to make a motion on 32?
Move approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, I think that was 7-to-1 as well. Next item is a proposed agreement with Valley Metro Rail for fair media distribution. Do we have a motion on item 33?
Motion to enter into an agreement with Valley Metro for fair media distribution. Move approval of item 33.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. There is one card on item 33. Mr. Blue Crowley. Mr. Crowley, up to 2 minutes of testimony. No problem. Mr. Crowley.
All righty. I was at RPTA today, and one of the things that they discussed was the technology update. And when I see this media distribution of passes for the rail, I go, well, the bus pass and the rail pass are the same thing, and the only difference is that on the rail, you've got a ticket dispenser. You don't have it at any of the transit centers. Wonder why you wouldn't have it there. But then, of course, when you go to use the bus, you're chastised $2 because the city of Phoenix, as a way of discouraging people from getting their passes on the bus, you know, this fare media, the transit passes, you charge an extra $2. That's abhorrent, and it needs to be taken out and changed. But then, as I said, I was at the RPTA today, and they were talking about the technologies on the getting the passes and such, and said, well, what we need to do is make it for those that don't have to have a less difficult way of getting. No, it was for those that do have the iPhones and those that now can use them to pay for their ticket, but it won't be the as though they were paying actual Bowling Green money, the currency of choice of those without. So when I see this, I'm going, what are we talking about for the Valley Metro Rail? The pass for both of them is the same thing, except for you can actually get passes
Thank you
at a
very much.
reasonable price at the rail.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crowley. Councilman Waring, you had a question?
Yes, and it's for 33 and 34. On both of these, this is not money for light rail or anything else. This is us recouping money from Valley Metro and then Scottsdale on number 34. Is that correct?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, you are absolutely correct. We do recover, well, I'll back up just a slightly bit. Phoenix provides a number of regional services for Valley Metro, which includes Phoenix. Fare collection system, including the tickets, as well as the vehicle management systems, are things that we provide on behalf of the region. When we do these regional efforts, we do collect back those cities or those entities' share of that cost, so that it is a cost neutral to the city of Phoenix.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments or questions from members of this council? Councilman Gates.
Thank you, Mayor. On this, you know, this is like I do on a lot of these where we're in this instance, clearly on this item, the city is not paying here, but this is $400,000 being spent for fare for media. What efforts are being made to allow individuals who are using the light rail to get some sort of a like an e-boarding pass, I guess, and avoiding having to spend the money and use the resources for the fare media?
Mayor, Councilman Gates, in fact, we actually spoke at the Transit Management and Rail Management Committee today, and we will be before the Citizens Transportation Commission on April 27th, talking exactly about providing additional fare options for our passengers. So in addition to paying cash for your fare, we're actually in phase 2 of an approach to bring reloadable smart cards as well as mobile ticketing to our system. Once we go past the Citizens Transportation Commission, we will be following up with the Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee to talk about this further. But you're correct, Councilman, we are on the path to provide these options for our passengers.
Great, happy to hear that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. So we have a motion in favor of 33. Do we want to add 34 to that as well?
Move approval of 34. Oh, let's just do it separately then.
Okay, we'll keep it separate. Mr. Carley, a separate card. So we'll just keep it on 33 for now. We have a motion in favor of 33. We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, passed unanimously. Item 34. We have a motion on 34.
Move approval of item 34.
We have a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Mr. Crowley, up to 2 minutes on 34.
I love that it's monies that you're collecting for Scottsdale. I wish, though, that it was cooperation between the two entities when it comes to making the system more of a grid. The roadway that I'm talking about specifically is Glendale or Lincoln or McDonald, wherever you are on it, along the roadway, and that the cooperation between Phoenix and Scottsdale to extend Lincoln Drive all the way to where it ends over at Granite Reef rather than at 24th Street. Well, the logic in that is that Parasite Valley doesn't want to have buses stopping in its community. Well, we need to make Scottsdale and Phoenix a more cooperative part of the transit system. And one of the things they need to do is get that route where it's sufficient and actually a part of a grid. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crowley. We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments, additional comments from members of the council on 34? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, I believe we have one final item, is 61. Vice Mayor, what would you like to do on 61?
We actually, could I move to continue this to April 20th so we can do some further discussion?
I'd like to second that.
We have a motion to continue and a second. All in favor say aye. To which date again?
April 20th.
April 20th. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. I believe there is no further business before this city council. We have one additional citizen comment card. So we'll take that card now, Mr. Blue Crawley, and then our meeting will be completed.
I'd like to find out from the city when the two extensively expensive projects that were started, developed in part, but never completed. The transit facility underneath Terminal 4, that instead of the rail going into that facility, we have the SkyTrain. It was stated that to make that terminal, it would have cost $500 million. So instead, we did the SkyTrain for $1.5 billion. But with things such as the different businesses down there at Sky Harbor, I think that it's one of the places we need to develop rather than have it as a whole, or do actually get it back into the transit system and make it a part of a multimodal thing. The other one is the transit center in the middle of the deck park. Now, we did have a sign used to say, we're going to have a transit center here, and the IGA between you and the state, I've seen it, and it's you to finish it off. Is there a reason we can't get around to getting that done and making it a part? Because the reason that it was built was so Dick Thomas and the rest of the Phoenix Transit could construct a bridge strong enough to hold the rail. And it was a matched project. So when are we going to get that one done? Make it a multimodal part of it. And I understand that when we did build it, nobody figured out that the buses that we do have, the mirrors would smack into that, but we can just set them back or do a little bit of reconstruction. But that was a $28 million project, and it's the reason that I do what I do. So could we get it done, or could you get me a letter saying, the reason we're abandoning these is what? Because the private sector, we could put a lot of stuff right there. You could do the same with the Spectre Mall's park and ride, but then with the budget that I saw that you're doing at the RPTA, we're going to spend, I think it's $900,000 on bus stop amenities over the next 5 friggin' years. At the same time, we'll spend $9 million on park and rides, where each one of those spots for a single occupant vehicle costs the same as it does for a bus stop. Wouldn't it be nice if your priorities were the people and getting the job done?
Thank you very much, Mr. Crawley. That's the last speaker we have for citizen comment. No further business for the city council. This meeting is now adjourned.